This event in 2000-2001 was carried out with great fervor by reenactors and preservationists, and as a great victory, taking back the place from an ill-fated era of preservation that had preceded it. In terms of the 1999 plan, what moved forward was an effort to literally recreate the landscape that had been there in 1863, to use GIS mapping techniques as well as historic photographs to figure out where trees were, how landforms had changed, and then, in certain areas, to begin to carry out a process of landscape restoration that was really unheard of and unseen before in the national park system, and that was to put it back the way it was in 1863. That's what got me interested in this project originally. And so I'm going to go back to read just the concluding portion as we look at the final few slides. From General Sickles to Private Phelps, soldiers clearly knew that the setting of the battlefield was organized by the contours of the land as well as the plants and trees that occurred there. Historic preservation also relies significantly on the biota of the Gettysburg battlefield site. Although efforts such as controlling characteristic megafauna such as deer require only slight ecological understanding of the site, the control and management of exotic species of plants is much more complex, or at least it begins that way, suggesting knowledge of succession and ecological integrity of a specific site. However, when it comes to implement restoration in the park, such nuance seems to be abandoned. In these instances of landscape restoration and rehabilitation, the understanding of the ecological systems is applied selectively in order to achieve the priorities of cultural preservation. That is, the scene of 1863. After watching the deer pass earlier, I sit comfortably upon my witness rock in the early 21st century and wonder if I should wrap my arms around the tree against which my back rests. Maybe I should climb it like an Earth First activist in a giant sequoia and refuse to leave for months. You see, my tree and I may be in danger at this moment. Lumber contractors remove stands of trees to my left and to my right. We could be next. Would a protest for this tree be similar to one for a giant redwood? Or would I be held a traitor against the U.S.? After all, this is not just any landscape. Ironically, at this moment, the chainsaw and the chipper join with the high-powered night-scoped hunting rifle to serve as tools of preservation. They are cogs in solidifying Gettysburg's meaning for Americans in the 21st century and restoring its previous self. In most cases, the ideal of authenticity has transformed ecology into a mere tool for historic preservation. I would argue that this does not need to be the case. With more transparency about land use policies and regulation, I believe the National Park Service can make sites such as Gettysburg into important symbols of planning, design, and preservation that respects, not exploits, the ecology of a site. In such a model of preservation, specific areas could be restored to their 1863 appearance, as they have been. However, in addition to educating visitors of the historicity of the views, they could also document the process of reconstruction. Such directives would refer to other segments of the landscape that had not been manipulated in such ways as reference points, such as Coltill. They could also include a sequence of rephotography to document the processes of preservation. Technically restored areas in this fashion would not deceive visitors about what they were seeing. In the vast majority of the park, however, what's called focal restoration could be used to allow the natural processes to continue. By carrying out such a plan, The battlefield would maintain its unique ability to offer visitors the authentic scene, while also being faithful to the ecology of the locale. Ultimately, preservationists' interests in recreating the landscape of 1863 marks the exercise of one of Lincoln's primary points: intellectual freedom to construct cultural productions, such as memorial landscapes. But 140 years have made clear that each of these ideas of preserving the sacred is not the end. It follows that preservationists never consider their work complete. Lincoln described preservation as a perpetual, evolving effort. The vigorous management of the battlefield's natural resources in the first decade of the 21st century marks no more permanent precedent than any of the other phases of land use at Gettysburg that we have seen in more than 140 years of preservation. No doubt, new challenges will be faced and new eras in the culture of preservation launched. And it's our job as the public to make sure our voice is heard, and the National Park Service will do its best to work with us, I know. And so thank you very much for listening, and let's move on to have some questions.